Hello and welcome to this Air Hauler 2 tutorial series. Today I'm going to show you how to set up scheduled passenger flights and how you can utilize AI pilots to really make the most out of that by increasing your reputation and making a lot of money. Before I do that, just a reminder that I am using X-Plane 11 version of Air Hauler 2, but these tutorials are totally applicable to FSX and P3D. They're all pretty much identical. So let's get into today's topic, and the way you get to the screen to set up your scheduled flights is through the top here. Click on routes and you've got this screen here. So what you're pretty much doing right here is just setting up a bunch of flights that will be scheduled and will fly day in and day out. Now you can go ahead and fly these flights yourself if you want to, but I highly recommend assigning them to AI pilots so you can set them up, let them fly in the background, and they'll just continue to turn over and make you money and reputation. So let's go ahead and show you how to set up your first sectors. So you just go ahead and press add sector up here, and I've got 3 aircraft available. In fact, I've only got 2 because one of the aircraft are way up the other part of the country, so we're not going to use that. Today we're going to set up some flights using the Cessna 172 and the King Air C90. One thing I have done in the background, I've gone and hired 2 new AI pilots to my crew, because those are the ones that I'm going to assign to these flights. Now, depending on the difficulty that you started on, you may or may not have the ability to do that. You might also not have a lot of money, so you might not be able to actually go and purchase some aircraft. But that's perhaps where leasing can come in and help you out, where you can lease aircraft in the meantime until you can afford to buy your own. So let's just do a basic scheduled setup here with a Cessna 172. They have the ability to carry 3 passengers, so nothing massive. It's just telling me that I'm departing from my base because that's where it's located. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select a destination airport right here. So let's just go NZNP. So that's New Plymouth here in New Zealand. So Wellington, New Plymouth, about 142 nautical miles. And then you're presented here with your sector details screen. So there's a couple rules you need to be aware of here, and that's gonna come into play when you decide how you're going to set up your scheduled routes. The first thing and most important thing really is to understand that your AI pilots can fly a maximum of 8 hours per day. Okay, so and then they have 16 hours off, and there goes your 24 hours in a day. So the thing though is that the 8-hour clock is a continuous clock, and as soon as you go wheels up, I should say, on that first flight, that's when the timer starts, and it just keeps going until it hits 8 hours. Then they can't fly. So you can't, for example, fly 4 hours early in the morning, then 4 hours late at night. It doesn't work like that. It's your 8 hours starts from the time that you depart that very first flight of the day. So what you probably want to do is maybe fly 1 or 2 return flights to make up those 8 hours. Just depends on the length of the flights. So what you've got to do here for a start is you select when you want this flight to actually start. And these are actual real world time. So at the moment I'm recording this on Sunday morning New Zealand time. So what it's saying is, hey, tomorrow after midnight, 12:30 a.m. in the morning. That's not very realistic, but let's just go with it. In the meantime, that's when this flight is due to depart. Now, all flights are in Zulu or UTC times, whatever you're used to. So when you go into your simulator, if you decide to fly these yourself, which you can if you want, but if you do, make sure your simulator time is set up to the actual time these are scheduled. That's just one little tip. So what you're doing in here really is setting up the ticket price of your seats, and then the type of cabin service that is available for your passengers. So the one thing that you're going to have to figure out is where's the sweet spot, I should say, for your ticket price, and also the type of the service that you want to provide, that's going to ensure that you make enough money to not only cover the direct operating cost of your flight, so in other words, the expenses for your flight, but also make you some profit. And this is where you're going to have to let these flights fly a couple of times, and then you'll see how many passengers are actually buying tickets for these flights. And if, say, for example, you're only getting 1 out of 3 tickets being sold, then probably you need to reduce the price of your flight. So I'll show you a little bit later on how you can go ahead and balance that. But so down here, it just shows based on your current seating configuration that you have set up in this aircraft. And for me, Cessna 172, it's just the 3 seats right here. And if I went ahead and charged 350, so I've left the pointer right in the middle, and perhaps that's a good way to start. at $350. If all 3 seats were sold, that's the key thing here, 100% utilization. If all 3 seats are sold, then I would make $1,050. It would cost me $179, and so I've got a profit there of about just under $900 per sector. So that's not a bad little profit right there. As you can see, these profits are nowhere near as good as when you get your AI to do the individual cargo routes, but over time these will produce a lot more money because you do a lot more of these. So what I can do is I'm just going to say, hey, yeah, I'm going to leave the prices in the middle, and I'm going to say, hey, look, we're going to give them a complimentary service. Do you see that how the direct operating cost increased? So whatever service you select, if I did executive service, the cost would increase even more. So you just got to decide how much money you're willing to save or spend for your service, and your service will affect how happy your customers are with your flight. So basically there's a couple of factors that affect customer satisfaction. One is the service. If you give them a bit of food and something to drink, they'll be a lot more happier, and also how good the flight was in terms of smoothness and all that sort of stuff. So if you bounce them down the runway like Captain Kangaroo, they're not going to be very happy with your flight, and obviously that's going to affect customer satisfaction and ultimately your reputation, which is obviously important. So obviously in this case here, we've got our AI pilots, and some AI pilots are going to fly these better than others. So you're just going to have to monitor that. So what I've done here, let's just recap. I've set the flight to $350, the ticket price, just for a start. We're going to monitor this to see if that's the right price. I'm going to give them complimentary service, and that means I'm going to earn probably around $850 there or thereabouts once we take the direct operating cost into account. Now, once you start getting more established with this, you can have a look at your cost per seat per mile, and you can start to really figure out what the most efficient way to do this is. Another thing to look at is estimated travellers per day on the route. So that's going to give you a bit of an idea on how popular this particular route is. So if that said 3, for example, then doing multiple flights to New Plymouth in one day probably isn't going to make any sense. And obviously the higher the number, the more people that are going to be available to buy flights. But that's only if you've got it priced right. So just make sure you take that into account. The other thing to take into account is, it's completely slipped my mind, okay, a bit of a brain fart there, everybody. What I was going to say is that you need to pretty much give passengers a day's notice of a new schedule. So, for example, these ones I'm setting up, like right now it's a Sunday, and I'm setting them up for tomorrow, Monday, so they'll be fine. That gives passengers enough time to decide if they want to buy tickets. But let's say I wanted to set it up for later today on Sunday, those wouldn't be completed. You'd need to wait until the following Sunday next week. So just take that into account, that you pretty much need to give passengers 24 hours notice for a schedule to be then purchased and completed. So hopefully that makes sense. So here we go. We've got our flight set up. It's going to take off on Monday at 12:30 a.m. this flight from Wellington to New Plymouth. So then we go ahead and go add sector. And our sector is now set up, except the sector doesn't have anyone to fly it. So like I said, is I could go, here we go, select it, and then down below go fly sector myself. But that's not what I want to do. You can do that, by the way, and I could fly it now, even though it's scheduled for Monday. I could fly it now, just make sure my simulator is set up for Monday, but all the rewards, so your rep and your money, all that, you won't get that until this real time in real life ticks over. So this is using real time, everybody. I just really want to make sure that I get that point across. So I could fly it myself, but what we're going to do is we're going to assign one of our pilots to take this flight, and that way we can set it and forget it. So you right click on it, and you can go assign crew. So there's a whole lot of options here, and we're going to use some of them in a minute, but assign crew. It tells you over here, by the way, that there's 1 crew required, and it even gives me a pop-up box. Okay, so the captain's going to be... what it's going to do is show you all the pilots that have the type rating for the aircraft that you want them to fly. So in this case, a Cessna 172. So Joseph James, he's going to be my pilot. Then I go save. And there we go, ladies and gentlemen. It's easy as that to set up 1 leg. Okay, the problem we have here is that that's just 1 flight. So that's not going to do us much good because... basically, this will fly once, and then it won't fly again because the aircraft needs to be located at the destination in which the flight starts. So that's going to stay at NZNP if we do nothing. Hope that makes sense. Now, so what we're going to do is we're going to set up some return flights here, and you'll start to get how we build up our schedule. So let's go ahead. Oh, by the way, one thing, you can see departure time is 0030 Zulu, and arrival time 0211. So these are the numbers you've really got to pay attention to, because you remember, we want to make sure this guy is back in Wellington in time to before his 8 hours expires. He's got to get back before those 8 hours expire. So what we can do here is, rather than try to figure out going to ag sector and then trying to figure out what we should do in terms of timing, what you can do is just right click on it and go add after. So this just means it's going to create a leg that's based on your current destination. So this aircraft will be departing from NZNP. So it just follows on from this flight. Press OK, and then it says, where do you want to fly it to? So we'll just return him back to Wellington, NZWN, use selected, and we're back to this screen. You'll recognize it. Now you can see here, just one thing to take into account, Monday 0256 AM. So he landed at 2:11, and by the time they turned around the aircraft, unloaded all the passengers, loaded it back up, it was 2:56 before he could depart. So there you go. There's usually about a half hour or maybe more turnaround time that you have to take into account for that counts against the pilot hours, is what I'm trying to say. So you just got to really monitor that right there. Now, you remember in one of my earlier videos, I talked about the skills that you can assign to your pilots, your AI pilots, when they come on board, if they've got some to be assigned. Or as they fly flights, they'll get more skilled and you can add more skill points. That's one thing that you can actually assign them to, is that they'll turn around the aircraft a bit faster. But what we're going to do here is, this is the return leg, and it's saying, oh, there's quite a big demand coming back to Wellington. So I'm feeling pretty confident that we'll be able to fill our aircraft. But I'm just going to leave it exactly the same. $350 for the price, complimentary service, and this is going to earn me $1,050 with a direct operating cost of $143. So it's as easy as this. Add sector. Okay. So it's highlighted in red, and the reason it's highlighted in red is because if you look at the status, no crew. So there's a couple of ways. What I'll do is I'll just leave this, because I'm going to show you a way that you can actually you can assign crew really easily across a number of different flights. So what we'll do instead is, now he has now used basically 4 hours and 17 minutes. So that's the difference between when he started and now when he's landed in his return flight. So he's got just under 4 hours of flight time left on the day. Hopefully you're following along with me here. So what we're going to do is we'll do another quick little flight. We can't go as far as New Plymouth, because if we did, even if if we did, it would be over our 8 hours. And even if it's 1 minute over our 8 hours, you can't do it. So we'll just do a shorter flight, and we'll go add after, and it'll be departing from Wellington. And let's just make it NZN Nelson. I know that's pretty close. So we'll go use selected, and it's going to pop it up here. Now this is just a very short 71 nautical mile flight, and because it's a lot shorter flight, I'm going to rev the price right down to maybe $131. That pretty much takes care of all the actual cost of the flight. So let's just put it right down to that. There's going to be no service for this flight. I want to keep the cost down. It's a very short flight. Once again, you can see up the top there that it doesn't depart because of the turnaround. It doesn't depart until 5:22 a.m. Remembering that because our first flight departed at 0030, we're going to have to get back into Wellington by 0830. Hopefully that makes sense. So we'll add that sector in right there. And then once again, it's telling me I've got no crew. We'll hold off on that for a minute. Ooh, this is going to be tight, but we should be fine. Let's go add after. And we can go departing from Nelson, NZWN, easy as that, use selected. And it's going to use the same details that I used before. It's got, $393 total profit. Total amount. Let's start that again. Total revenue if the flight is full, and $100 of cost. So we'll go ahead and add that sector. So there we go, we've set up our return flight. So let's just check a couple of things. Number one, this is at less than 8 hours between his first flight and when he gets back on his last flight. Yes, it is, just. And you want to try to get it as close as possible and maximize that time in the seat. And so he's done very well there. He's about 12 minutes less than his maximum time, so that's great. So what we want to do now is, like I said, there's an easy way to go ahead and assign pilots. Of course, you can just go assign crew, or you can go right up the top here and go assign crew and pilots. You'll require one crew for this schedule. I go OK. I can select Joseph James, press save, and boom, there he goes. He gets allocated to all the outstanding flights. So that's why it's a good idea to set it up per pilot for a start, because then you can just fill in the details nice and easy by using that bulk assign functionality. So there we go, we've got our first day schedule all set up right there for Joseph James. So as of in real time, so tomorrow morning just after midnight, midnight my time, he's going to start his flight. So if I logged into Air Hauler 2 in the middle of the night in case I couldn't sleep or something like that, when I come in here, when this will turn green when he's flying the flight, and then just after he flies it, it turns orange to say it's recently completed. And then when I went up into my company information, I could look to see that my reputation and all the dollars, all the revenue and cash and all that sort of stuff had been put on my account. The other thing I'll need to check once these flights have been flown is whether we sold any tickets. And I have had that where I've set up a flight and there's been no tickets sold. So I need to adjust either the price or the service or whatever I need to adjust to make sure I get people on board. Anyway, so that's how you set up a nice simple schedule right there. A couple of other rules that you need to be aware of. And I'm just going to show you how you can set up your rest of your week really easily, by the way. But a couple other rules is if you start getting into the big long flights, so for example, anything over 7 hours, for example, you're going to need a third pilot. So you're probably in a big jet here. So say you're in a 777 or something, you've got your two normal pilots, and you'll need a third pilot to come in and sub in one of those pilots who will need to rest halfway through the flight. If it's a massive flight, like a 17-hour plus flight or something like that, you're going to need another pilot to be able to come in and give the rest to the secondary pilot also. So the big long flights, you're going to need more crew to be able to get the flight completed. Anyway, so we've got this set up, but what we want to say is we're going to offer these flights every Monday through to Friday. Now you could have this guy working 7 days a week and he's not going to complain. You could run him 7 days a week for the rest of the year, and these flights will just tick over in the background. You'll make money, and that's how you can really make a lot of money and reputation for your company. But you might want to be a bit more realistic and say, I'm going to give Joseph 2 days off a week. So what you can do is, rather than have to go in and set up all these flights individually, you can use a couple of functions. You can just go ahead and you could either copy an individual sector. So if you just said, look, I just want him to fly Wellington to New Plymouth on Tuesday and back again, you could just add that. Or the easiest thing, if you want him to do exactly the same thing every day, is just say copy day to others. I click that, and here you go. It tells you what days do you want to copy the exact schedule. And I'm going to say Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I'm a really good boss. I'm going to give him Saturday and Sunday off. So I go OK, and boom, there we go. All those flights have been copied. Now you do have to assign pilots. So assign crew and pilots. You require one crew. Joseph James, save that. And here we go, ladies and gentlemen. As easy as that, I've set up a whole week schedule for this guy, and every day that will just roll over and over and over again. And like I say, in the background, just make your money. Now you will, after the first few flights, and different days by the way, so after the first week, you'll have a good idea. Well, after the first day, you'll know whether you're way off in terms of your prices because your flights won't be full. But you might find they're all completely full. If that's the case, you might want to increase prices just a little bit and try to maximize as much profit as you can based on demand. So you just got to really play with those sliders. And I'm going to jump into my other test account in a minute and just show you what it looks like after a few flights have been completed. So what we would do now then, say we wanted to set up another sector for our C90 King Air right here, our King Air C90. I'm not going to do it because I think I've covered it off enough there, but I could go ahead and set up a schedule for them, maybe to some different destinations. It's obviously going to come down to the range available, so the C90's got a lot more range. I can grab my other AI pilot, assign them a whole lot of different routes, just make sure they're within that 8 hours every day, and yeah, I could have 2 airplanes every day flying all these different routes. Now what I could also do is with the Cessna 172 is I could hire 2 more pilots and I could fly this plane 24 hours a day. So and just maybe even repeat this route. It depends on the demand. But I could have the Cessna 172 up in the air pretty much 24 hours a day, but with 3 different pilots flying it. So there's heaps of different ways you can set up your schedules. When I do it, I prefer to keep it semi-realistic. So I might just have the plane flying from, say, maybe first thing in the morning to maybe 8 or 9 at night, depending on the type of aircraft. And then I'll give my pilots 2 days off a week or things like that. But you could, like I say, you can grind them into the ground and I'm not going to complain. So what I'll do now, everybody, is I'm just going to jump into my other company and just show you what it looks like after there's been a whole lot of flights completed. So I'll see you soon. Okay, welcome back to the other company that I have running in the background. It's just a test company. And as you can see here, I've got passenger routes, scheduled passenger routes set up here for both the Cessna 172 and the Baron 58. We've got Scarlett and Juan doing a really good job for me right here. And so down the bottom here, you get a really quick idea on how that route is performing. So the number you want to look at is the utilization, and as you can see for this particular one, NZWN to NZCH, I get 100% utilization, and I have right from when I started up this route. So it's been going for a couple of weeks now, and it's been very consistent. I can probably up the price of that one, by the way, but the average income is 1,028. Another example here is our flight from return flight from Marston into Wellington on a Tuesday. It started off at 0. I had a price way too high. It then has gone up to 2, and then it's working its way up towards 3. And if you go in and check out the detail of the flight, if you go up into your ledger and look for Tuesday, Masterton to Wellington. So let me go and check that. And here it is here, Tuesday the 9th of June. $345 was the income I got for that flight. And if I have a look at the sector details right here, that $300. So yep, all the tickets were sold, plus there was a bit of purchase, service purchase in there too to make up that $45. So that one's at full operation now. So I've got that balanced quite nicely. So it's just a case of, as day by day, just review your flights, see whether your price might be way too low. If it's 100% utilized straight away, you might want to pump it up a little bit until you see it drop off, and then you just adjust it back. Or if it's really low, like some of these, and you can see the graph down below, it gives you a very good idea. If it's like down at 0, you know you're way overpriced. So you just go ahead and you adjust them as you go. So as you can see here, I've got 2 different pilots, Monday to Friday, flying 2 different aircraft, and making me quite a lot of money in the background there, just ticking over. One thing I would suggest is that you work out your monthly. Now this isn't the greatest company for this because I've done a whole lot of things that will skew it, but if we go to finance overview, the key number is look at your base costs, your aircraft leasing costs, and your insurance costs, and your pilot costs. So all your different costs that you have. So these are your fixed costs you have of day, month in, month out. And set up a schedule initially that's going to at least cover all of these. Then any flights you do personally are going to be pure profit, basically. Now, I've got loan repayments in here because I did a whole lot of silly stuff and signed up a $4 million loan and a few other things. But yeah, it's the cash has been increasing quite nicely in the background for me there. The other interesting thing is if you go into company info, look at this reputation right here. Passenger reputation, 81.38, this pink line. So some of these flights people weren't very happy with, by the way. And so you just got to go in and sort of work with those. But as you can see here, our passenger reputation is going up through the roof, and I think I've flown one passenger flight. This is all through the AI pilots flights. So that's a really fantastic way of increasing the reputation in your company, which obviously helps you do a whole lot of things, opens up a world of opportunities. My cargo reputation is low because we've done pretty much nothing there, which overall means that our reputation is 59.76. If we start getting our cargo one up a bit more, then obviously our overall will increase. But our passenger one is absolutely through the roof. In fact, a couple of my pilots have got promotions by gone up to the next rank just by flying all these flights, and I've been able to assign them additional skills. So hopefully, everybody, that gives you a really good overview of scheduled passenger routes. Like I say, a fantastic way of building both reputation and dollars within your company. It takes a little bit to set it up and a little bit of tweaking just to get it right, but it provides an opportunity to really grow your company pretty quickly, really, without too much effort. So hopefully that all makes sense. If you have any questions or comments or picked up anything I got wrong, please post it down in the comments below. Hope you did enjoy the video. Smash that like button, subscribe if you're new, and until next time, take it easy.